FUEL is the official podcast of the 434th Air Refueling Wing. Join us for airman connections, leadership insights, mentorship, and happenings mixed with some fun and humor. Please understand that the views expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the views of the U.S. Air Force nor the Air Force Reserve, and no endorsement of any person or business is ever intended.
Welcome to the second edition of the FUEL podcast. I'm your host and the command chief here at Grissom Air Reserve Base, Nathan Parks. Today, we've got a great show for you. Our guest's going to be Master Sgt. Hansel Orozco. He's from the Grissom Chapel office. We're going to get to know him a little bit better, have a little bit of fun, talk on a personal level. And then we're also going to talk about a topic that both of us are passionate about, and that's resilience. And so I'm really excited about this, really excited about that conversation. As always, in the room with me is Josh, the Dreamweaver. He makes this thing happen. Josh is always stepping up. And one of the feedback that we got from you guys on the first podcast was, hey, it sounded professional, even though I know you guys are pretty unprofessional. But that's all Josh. Josh did that and makes it. So thank you, Josh, for that. And we're going to keep going. We thank you for your inputs on the podcast. We continue wanting to get better and hit the topics that you want to hear about. And so reach out to us. We'll get a little bit into that more on how you can reach out to us. But let's get started right away. I want to hit a topic that we all just went through this extremism training. And I know that if you talked to me before we went to the extremism training, I was a lot like a lot of you of like, why are we doing another training? Why do I need another set of training? And what we did was we took this training, and first off, the reason why we were doing it is the SecDef said we needed to do it. So by all means, we're going to do it. And there was also, when we got to digging into it, there was some reasons to do it here locally. And so hopefully you took away from that training how we localized it, how we made it to where it fit for the Grissom Airmen. And that's what we try to do, and that's what we're going to continue to try to do, is how to make that fit to you and how to make it applicable in your life. And we talked in this training, we talked about the impermissible behaviors, how to report those behaviors and the obligation report. And we also talked about the oath of office, which I loved the passion that people brought with that oath of office and why they're serving. I hope that you guys saw through that training that I put in there some of my own personal struggles. And I did that for a reason, is some of these conversations, they have a tendency to get emotional. And usually when we start getting emotional, it's because we're looking through a lens that affects us, like a lens that we brought to the table is already before the training even started. I've got this preconceived idea on what this is gonna be. And so that's how I'm gonna view this whole training. And what I'm asking you to do, and what I'm asking, the training, most of it's over. Some of you are still going to do it, but any of this training and even these podcasts that we go through is I'm asking us to look at this through a lens, more like a microscope of our own life. As I'm look at my life. Stop going into this training, and I know I've done this a million times. Is I'm sitting in the middle of something, and I'm like, whether it's church, whether it's training, no matter what it is I'm like, man, I wish Chief was here. This would be a great thing for him to hear. And instead of looking at, and how can I apply this to my life? So as we go through some of this stuff, we really want to drill down on us. We want to figure out where things apply to us. We want to see where maybe with this extremism training, we wanted to see where you, the individual, where you saw that maybe you were drifting from that oath that you took, and how those little drifts lead to big mistakes down the road. You know, and if we all do that, if we all find these little drifts and we eliminate them, we can also eliminate extremism, racism, sexism, prejudice, or any other disrespect. Because those can't live when we look at these things, when we eliminate them from our lives, when we eliminate the drifts from our lives. So please walk away from that training knowing that we have a whole lot in common, and our acceptance of our diversity of thought is what keeps us evolving. And if we join together and we stand with this oath, we can create an unbeatable force. All right, as we transition here into the first guest, most of you know him. He's all over this base. I see him all over. It's Master Sergeant Hansel Orozco. He's the 434th Air Refueling Wing Senior NCO of the Year. He works over in the chapel staff as a religious affairs airman. The chapel was recently named by AFRC as the chapel ministry. They received the Presence Award for just being out there, and a lot of that has to do with his actions and what he does and the great staff that he has surrounding him over here. He's the leader of the sometimes subpar Gus Grissom, or the Grissom Gas Hogs gaming team. You've seen him around base. He's currently single and looking, not on base, but he's out there looking. But please welcome Master Sergeant Orozco, Hansel Orozco. So let's learn a little bit more about you. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Near the Woodlawn Lake area.
Okay. Is that called Military Town, USA, San Antonio, right?
People have referred it to that. I go, no, it's San Antonio.
Yeah. So you call that home?
I do.
All right.
Love it there.
Your parents live there?
Both my parents, my twin sister, and my brother live there. The rest of my family's from Nicaragua, and then they moved to San Antonio. And I have a sister in Houston and one in Tennessee. There, that's the whole thing. Because I know that's where the questions start going.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, but you're a twin.
Yeah, I'm a twin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How was that growing up?
I don't know what it's like any other way. You know?
Okay, yeah.
So having a twin, pretty interesting. Definitely found out that she was a lot prettier than I was all the time. Every time.
Yeah.
People were always like, "Oh, these are." My parents are like, these are our twins, and her name's Well, I'm not gonna say her name. I'm gonna say her nickname is Cell. And like that's Cell, and that's Hansel, and like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. Hi, Hansel, and that's it. That's all I got. Never got handsome, nothing.
Yeah.
Started putting lipstick on my face. Like, I feel pretty too.
Which I should probably be offended by, because someone said you kind of look like me.
Right, exactly.
Which probably the best compliment you've ever received.
Not just someone, like 4 people told me that.
Yeah, it's probably the best thing you've ever received. But anyways.
It's up there.
So married? Are you married?
I'm not married, single.
Yeah.
I don't know about looking, but I'm here.
Yeah. Kids? Any
No
kids?
kids.
No?
I have a dog.
Dog, yeah.
Some people count that. I don't. I count. It's my dog.
Yeah.
I take care of him.
Him, her, what is
Him.
it?
His name's Apollo.
Apollo.
Yeah, for those people that have met him, they already know he's pretty great.
Yeah. All right. You have any hobbies?
Got a lot of hobbies. I'm single.
That's right.
I'm 33
That's right.
and single. So yes, I got a lot of hobbies.
Yeah. What are your hobbies?
I play piano. I love playing tennis. I grew up playing tennis. Skateboard a little bit, not great. I just like riding around on a skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
Riding on bikes. I game a lot of video gaming, a lot of tabletop gaming as well. That's probably my favorite thing to do. Is anything, almost anything competitive, and it's a form of LARPing, okay, and it's a lot to explain.
Right. Did you, we're recording this? Like,
I know you're recording it, which is why there was such pause.
Yeah, there's like 4 people
there.
that will know now that you are a LARPer.
They're gonna make fun of me.
Explain to someone what LARPing is.
So LARPing is live action role playing, where you go to the woods and you pretend to be these fantasy type people or characters that you create for yourself. But I play a format of that called Dagger here, where it's not magic and spells like they would do.
Yeah, where we see the video of the guy like lightning bolt.
Right,
lightning bolt.
Yeah,
that's the best YouTube video.
That's LARPing.
Okay.
That's what LARPing is.
That's where I picture you.
Dagger here is, if you've seen those recreational medieval fighting, but they use like wood and was it SCA? They use wood and metal and they actually hit the crap out of each other. So we use it's foam constructed like
Pool noodles.
Fiberglass core. It does sting a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, fiberglass core with swords and shields and arrows and spears and stuff. And I love that stuff because that's one of the rules is you have to hit hard enough for the other person to feel it, right? So if you go up against someone that's like, I barely even felt that, like, okay, then where's my heavier one?
There you go.
We got a rhino hide over here.
If you tune into this podcast to be educated, you just learned a whole lot about LARPing.
It's a lot of
fun. Or whatever you called the second time.
Dagger. We just call it dag.
Okay.
Dag-nabbit.
Yeah. So tell me about this game night. So you're the game night coordinator for here at Grissom. If someone has no idea what game night is, kind of explain that to them.
So game night, we get together and play games. That's the simplest way I could put it. What games we play, that depends on the volunteers. People that come in, if you want to play, say, a Nintendo Switch game, like this last time I had my Nintendo Switch where we could play Mario Party. I have my Nintendo Switch, we could play that. I also have a couple of board games that Airman Family Readiness donated to us. Got for us. They procured it. So we could play those board games there. I had Master Sergeant Ellison bring a game called Dice Thrones that I'm hooked on right now. That was a lot of fun. So he brought that game, his personal copy, and we played that. That was a lot of fun.
When is it?
It is Saturdays after the UTA. Anytime, if you imagine, all right, well, what time exactly? Well, when does your UTA end? It's after that.
Yeah.
And you can go straight to, right now, the consistent location has been Building 431. It's the building that Airman Family Readiness is also in, along with the chaplain office.
Right across from EOD and COM.
Right across from EOD and COM and the firefighters.
Right.
Off of South Tanker.
So why'd you start it?
So the RTP, the Resilience Tactical Pause, talked about connectedness. And previous to that coming out, I just wanted to get together and play games. I love doing it. And so when the RTP came out, talking about resilience and how connectedness is one, what is this? I'm going to say solution, maybe a Band-Aid to what can help people become more resilient. It's also part of a suicide prevention a tactic. So what better way to connect with folks than games? I mean, to me, it's two birds, one stone. You get to connect with people. You get to see how they are competitively, because that's a whole different person for me too.
Yeah.
And then also you build connections with folks that way. Get to talk and network a little bit. Get to know the people at your base, especially you're only coming here 1 week in a month. And on the other side of that is you build your resilience, because what better teacher is there than losing?
Yeah. So we've said resilience here a couple times. Let's dig into this. What's your definition of resilience?
It's your recovery from a stressful situation. I think that's my best blanket cover. Yeah. Without getting like real specific. That's what resilience is to me. Yeah. And what recovery is, whatever gets you back to normal, whatever keeps you stress-free.
Yeah. So that's similar. You know, I was thinking about this, and the kind of definition I came up to is your ability and the speed at which you bounce back to normal from a disturbance.
There you go. That's way better than how I put it.
But then there was another one that I'd looked at, and I was like, well, what about resilience in wildlife, right? Is if we have a forest fire out here and everything burns to the ground, what's resilience look like out there? And it's, well, in a few weeks, maybe a month or so, grass starts to grow.
Right.
You know, because the earth is resilient.
Right.
And it bounces back. And so I almost want to take that word normal out of there. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, kind of, you may not go back to normal, because maybe normal's what got you in that situation, right?
Right.
So it's kind of, your ability to bounce back, or,
you know, that's interesting, because one of the most, like with that thought, two things come to mind for me. One is deer, because when it comes to deer, they're one of the few animals, and I didn't do that much research to tell you what the other animals are, but one of the animals that have had their habitat taken away as we develop like homes and suburbs and things, but they've multiplied more, like they've like the number of deer.
Yeah, they
that
continue to
exists
grow.
Continues to grow. It doesn't go down as we take away their habitat. It continues to grow. And then so that when you point out the resilience of wildlife or things.
Yeah.
And the other one, as it comes to the plant idea, is the best grape that is used for wine is the one that grows in like really terrible conditions.
Yeah, I just had this conversation last night with my neighbor.
Oh, really?
He just came back from the vineyards, and the great point is the best flavor of those grapes and everything comes from the struggle that grape had to do to survive.
Right.
And it's what a great imitator of life, and the fact that you see. I love reading these books on people that we just see one thing, right? We see one part of their life. We don't get to see the struggle that it took for them to survive to get to that point.
Right.
So what do you think your definition and the Air Force's definition? Because remember, you did resiliency tactical pause, right?
Right.
And then we do resiliency training, and we do how many times have we all seen it on some little social media post or something, is we got to build resilient airmen.
Right.
Do you think your definition and the Air Force definition is the same? Or what do you think the Air Force definition?
I'm not even going to try to think what the Air Force definition of resilience is. I think they want you to get back to the mission, right? So I'll say that part. For myself, resilience is, well, besides the definition I gave you in the past, I would say whatever keeps you stress-free, whether it's a change of mindset, or doing the things that you enjoy doing. I mean, most of the time, I do like playing games, but I don't like playing video games for a long period of time. And when I start to do that, I know something's going on with myself. I was doing that a lot. I'll just be open. I was just going home and playing games. I was doing that a lot for the past couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
And this past weekend, I went to a buddy of mine's wedding, a guy that I actually met while gaming.
Yeah.
First time I saw him in person was at his wedding. A friend came with me because I didn't want it to be some kind of weird situation. I show up and I'm like, "You're not the person that I thought that you were. I thought you were getting married. Why are there chains on the over the walls?" But it wasn't like that at all.
Yeah.
But after it was such a good time. I won so many board games there with them, which was great. But it was such a good time. And then here coming back, I was like, man, that's just what I needed. I needed to kind of to get out of my environment real quick, come back to it. And then, so yesterday and the day before that, coming back home, I started cooking again. I made some pulled pork. Sorry, I didn't bring any, sir. I know you really like the pulled pork. But
Proofs in the pulled pork, I guess.
Yeah. And started cooking there, started taking care of all these like little items that I just put off because I would just come home. I would just come home and game.
Yeah, so that's phenomenal. So you're a senior NCO. We got a lot of people that were charging with this whole, hey, you need to build resilient airmen. So how do you know if an airman's resilient? Like when you're walking around, when I run into Josh,
right?
And I'm like, here's the Dreamweaver man. He's got a great life,
right?
How do I know if he's resilient? Yeah. Because that's what I've been charged with. That's what the Air Force has said. Hey, you need to build resilient airmen.
Right. Conversation. You have to get to know your folks, and don't be weird about the conversations that you have with people. You can honestly just say, I'm just trying to get to know you. You're my troop, right? Hit that caveat. And in an appropriate way, I have to say those things. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's part of the training.
Yeah, I don't want someone to take that and be a weirdo about it. But having conversation, get to know, like I've gotten to know Josh. Sorry, everyone calls you Josh. I'm so used to. I'm gonna call you the Dream. I got to know
the Dream. Yeah, the Dream is.
And do you like that? The Dream? Do you prefer that, or do you prefer Weaver?
Or Sergeant Weaver?
Sergeant the Dream Weaver.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Weaver. At least you didn't pick Basket.
Yeah, the best.
Right?
That's another.
At least
choice.
You didn't do that.
We're not getting off topic. All right.
Sorry.
Back to Josh.
So how you figured that out? Like I've gotten to know Josh and even having for one himself telling me there was one UTA where he's like, man, I've been working all this time. Like, I can't wait to go home and rest, right? And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can see it in your eyes. Like, that's not, I know what you look like normal. I know what you look like on a good day. This is not normal. Like, I'll let you go. I'll stop talking your ear off and stop going off topic, you know?
So that it's a definite balance there, right? Because there's certain people that they just don't want you to dig in their life, right? They don't want you
and that's
to,
okay.
you know, dig in there, and there's no real. I know we say that a lot, and I hear that a lot in training, and it's like, hey, you should get to know your people. So I'm the person I am. I've never struggled with that because I want to get to know you because it's at my core, right? It's part of you talk about core values is I want to get to know you, and I want to know how I can help you get to where you want to be.
Right.
And, you know, and to for me to look at that and say, you know, how do I know that you're resilient? Well, yeah, it's when I pass you in the hall every day and I'm like, you know, what's up, O? And you're usually like, you know, living the dream. And this day you're like, nothing.
Right. I'll never say living the dream.
I know. I don't do that. But you know what I'm saying? It's those small things that I get to know you because I care.
Right.
Not because it's my job, not because of, you know, anything else, but because I care about you. And so I think for me to really know if someone is resilient, you have to care about them.
Absolutely. And how do you show that care?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a great point. Otherwise, you have to rely on them to tell you.
Right.
Hey, I'm struggling right now.
Right. And you've been there like, I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do. Some people do prefer to keep to themselves. Some people don't enjoy sharing, and that's okay. I've definitely bumped into folks like that. Part of my gig is going around getting to know people and talking to them. And there are some people that don't like having long and lengthy conversations. But I'll tell you, even those folks here recently have come into my office. The folks that hardly share anything about themselves have come into my office and said, you know, maybe you should stop by this area. You know, we could use some. But
it's that rapport,
support,
right?
You know?
It's that because they know you care.
Right.
That's why they're asking you to come by.
Right.
And so, you know, so that's one thing is identifying. You know, is knowing, caring enough about the people around you where you can identify, you know, where they're maybe struggling or when they're struggling.
Right.
But what about how do we teach it?
How do you teach
resilience?
Resilience. So besides the RTA training that the Air Force provides, the resilience.
So that's one side, right?
Yeah, that's one side.
That's we provide these courses, and even I think you look at the extremism training that we went through, is there was some resilience there because we're hearing these stories, we're seeing this, you know, the training, we're talking about our core values, we're talking about why we serve, and so we're digging up some of these feelings of, oh yeah, that's why I'm here, right? But so you take that training that's not provided, but you're a supervisor that's on the line, or you're an airman that is maybe not in a leadership position. You're still charged with training up some resilient airmen around you and yourself. So how do you teach that?
Oh, that's tough. I know people's knee-jerk reactions are I'll just say, you know, suck it up or something.
Yeah.
And that's for everyone out there. At least someone is trying. You know, at least someone is trying to care for you in that way. The very first thing I would say is talk to whomever, right? So that would be one way of teaching people how to teach resilience or how to become resilient is talking it out. At least it doesn't have to be this powwow session, but at least pointing to someone saying, everything going okay? You don't have to tell me, right? If you know that person's not a sharer, but is something going on that you need to take care of now, or that we need to look out for? At least give me a yes or no. Yeah. And that starts, right? Then they'll give you that answer, and that's enough. You're like, all right, yeah, you've shared. Maybe you feel better. Maybe this will come up later. You don't know, but it takes a little bit more than your speeches or sharing. Well, this worked for me. Maybe maybe this will work for you because it worked for me, and maybe that will, but not everybody is really the same. I mean, if you do your 4 lenses training, you find out there are 4 different colors, but even 4 lenses tells you that's like a what is it, a sky high, mile high look at personalities. So there aren't just 4, and even Myers-Briggs doesn't really even break it down with all your 4 different letters and combinations they're in. But knowing your folks and trial and error on what each individual person is receptive to.
So the resilience training is a lot like, that physical training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is what works for you, and what works for you in diet or what works for you in exercise may not work for me. You know, you may be a keto kind of guy, and I may be like, no, I'm a vegan kind of dude, or whatnot, and I'm not, by the way. But
that's okay if you are. I like vegan food.
Yeah, that's so. But it's that finding what works and finding where that individual needs are, and man, it's resilience takes on. It's, if you really look at it, it's such a broad spectrum,
right?
And it's what is resilient to one person, someone else, like you're saying, is like, why don't that person just suck it up?
Right. And we're all built differently.
Yeah.
And one of the, I'll tell you something that wasn't me before when it comes to resilience and what I am now, or what I try to be now, is compartmentalizing things.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a tough one to learn, right? Because I will, like, my emotions will, I don't want to use the word take over, but they'll bleed over.
Yeah, bleed
into other things. If I have an argument with the dream, and then I go to lunch with other folks, I might be in a sour mood, and they're like, "You're a little crabby right now." I'm like, "Sorry, some other things."
I've been at those lunches with you.
Yeah,
like when you don't get the shoe deal that you want, and you're like,
the Nike sneakers app is like the worst thing.
I might
delete it.
You know what that's called? That's called scarcity. The scarcity effect. Have you ever heard of that?
I've not heard.
So scarcity effect. Think of it as so our brain and our emotions are in a certain size. Like if you look at it in IT way, it's just, there's a certain bandwidth that we have, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at it in like plumbing wise, then it's a certain size pipe that everything has to fit in.
Right.
And what the scarcity effect says is, as each of those, even if you're compartmentalizing, it still takes up space in that bandwidth. It still takes up bandwidth. So even if you're like, you know what, this is not work stuff, this is home stuff, it still takes up some of your bandwidth.
It does.
Right? And sooner or later, all of that bandwidth gets eaten up.
Right.
And so the scarcity effect is that, hey, even if you're compartmentalizing, that still contributes to the totality of how much stress you have in your life.
Right.
And so then that whole bleeding over piece is because you don't have any more bandwidth. Yeah. You're sharing bandwidth now. You're sharing bandwidth on, your home life is now sharing the same bandwidth as your work life. And your relationship life, and it's the people that come in here, and it's, hey, the last thing they wanted to do was show up for a UTA because of all the stuff they have going on at their home. Mm-hmm. And then it's it's that day that they forget their patch or something.
Right.
And then someone comes around, is like, hey, you're not running the right patches, you need to get that fixed, and they blow up, and they're like,
yeah,
you don't even know me.
Right.
You didn't ask me what was going on in my life. And it's that scarcity effect. I had this as a very early supervisor. One of the first troops I supervised, he kept showing up late. And so my chief came down, and I think it was staff, and said, hey, listen, I know you like to talk people and you like to have fun and all that stuff, but it's time for you to be an NCO. You need to give this dude some paperwork. And so I said, all right. So I said, okay, yeah, I need to toe the line. Like, I'm all about standards. So I take the guy to lunch, and I said, hey, what's the deal? What's happening here? Because I've talked to you probably 4 times about showing up on time and the importance of that, and now other people are saying it. And so, what's happening, and what's keeping you from showing up on time? He said, well, I got 3 kids now. I said, yeah. And I said, yeah, my older 2 are in school, and we have the 1-year-old. Yeah. Well, my wife has been suffering from postpartum depression. She's suicidal. And he said, so I come to work and I go home and then I have to cook and get the kids ready and help with homework and do all those things and do laundry and clean and all those things. And then, and then on top of that, then I got to try to help my wife through a situation that, whether I think it's made up or not, I still have to help her through this because it's pressing for her.
Right.
And you've been pushing me to get that CCAF. So I'm taking online classes too. So I did do that. And then when I get up in the mornings are the worst for my wife. And that's when she's at her worst moment. So I got to make sure our kids get out the door to school.
Right.
And I want to make sure that the baby gets fed before I leave.
Wow.
And so I'm just not able to do all of that and make it in. So I said, hey man, I'm sorry. This should have been question 1 I asked you 4 times ago is what's keeping us from this? Because the scarcity effect, everything started bleeding in together.
Right.
And so he didn't even have the capacity to ask for help at that point.
Right.
And so I said, hey, we're going to get you the help we need and stuff like that. And so, man, that scarcity effect is huge.
Yeah, doctors would tell you as soon as if you have a pain in anything, like your joints or something, if you don't bring it up right away, like having that pain already, like it's already too late.
Yeah, you're in that. Yeah. Is there a time where your resilience has been tested that you want to share?
Oh, that I want to share? Let's see if I could think of one. Well, I'm sure I could. There's plenty. I'll do fun ones. What I mean by fun ones, I mean like losing at a game constantly over and over, say a tournament. Like that bites. That does take its toll. Like I don't like losing.
Yeah.
And that's not to the point. I want to make this clear. When I lose, I don't throw the control and throw a tantrum. That's not what I mean by I don't like losing. That's called throwing a tantrum. I just don't like to lose. And I'm like, okay. So I try to think to myself, well, what do I learn from this loss? What do I need to work on? But then you lose again. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, well, what do I need to work on now? All right, maybe these other things. Then you lose again. You're like, all right, maybe I'll just uninstall this game, never play again. How about that? Then I never have to learn any lesson again. How about that game? And you start getting mad at the game or at yourself about things. But never throwing a tantrum. But that's definitely a moment of resilience where things are happening that are out of your control. You're just getting beat down. Right? They're just scoring another goal and you're like, all right, well, I'll try to do this. And I'm like, why do I always feel like I'm a step behind every time? So
you ever feel like that at work?
Yeah. Constantly, actually. There's always something that could be done, we could be improving on, or something that I may have forgotten to do.
Yeah.
That the deadline's coming up and now I got to scramble, or something that I just procrastinated on. I mean, we're all human, things occur. And that happens a lot.
So what happens when you're up against those, and now do you feel like that comes into play with your core values?
Oh yeah, especially
and that drift we talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. You prioritize everything, and then they tell you, well, you got to really prioritize like minuscule. Like, well, how are we? You get your valedictorian at school, but then you get into like the cum cum laude like type of things of what priorities things take. I mean, you have top secret clearance, but then you have what like the kilo and all those like types of clearances. Like, well, so then there's even more top. Like that's by definition top secret clearance is like the top. But now you're telling me there's like little individual things on top of that.
I think the word priority didn't become. There was no plural for it until like in the 1940s. I'm serious.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So there was your priority.
Right. Now your priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in life, I mean, I think everything's balanced, right? Like, so when it comes to things at work and what I do is I have to make things a priority in a time scale, right? So I'm here full time. I'm AGR here. So Tuesdays I dedicate to this, right? And then Wednesdays are for that. And then Thursdays for going out to visit these folks. And Monday I'm going to visit these folks. Like I compartmentalize it that way. And it's fluid because sometimes things come up that take a priority. And then but the number one priority though above anything else is taking care of the airmen. If anyone calls me up that needs to talk about anything, or I just visit with someone that they need to talk about something, that's the priority for our office.
Do you think for our members out there, we talked about resilience and how you talked about, if you're having a pain, it's probably too late.
Right.
Right. So as an airman, maybe that's struggling out there right now, do you think there's a time where you have to step back and say, I gotta put myself first right now. Like, I need help.
Yes, absolutely. When we talk about service before self, a lot of people think it's about overworking yourself.
Yeah.
Or finishing that marathon even though you twisted your ankle. Yeah, I don't know anything about marathon, so like halfway through, I'm gonna say.
I'm guessing.
And you're still, I guess about halfway through, you twist your ankle, and you still run on it, and it's gonna just get worse and worse. I did a similar thing. So playing my Dagger Here game, I broke my thumb. I didn't immediately go to the doctor. I was like, well, I gotta go to work. I'll just put a brace on this bad boy. But 1 week I'll start to feel better. We're gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And I went to work, and I couldn't, utilize my thumb at all. It wasn't until finally I was like, okay, I got to go to the doctor. I got to go to the doctor for myself now, because it's not healing. It's not getting any better. I can't grab anything. It's my thumb. And I went to the doc, and he said, after scanning everything, he said, well, it's been like a month, so we'll put you in a cast, but hopefully it heals. If not, we're going to have to do surgery. But you should have shown up back then. And so now I think about that when it comes to taking care of myself. Like, the reason I didn't go to the doctor was because I didn't want to not be at work or getting the job done. But I hurt my thumb.
Yeah.
And if I'd have told that to anybody, anyone would have said, well, you're an idiot. Why don't you go to the doctor immediately? Well, because I didn't want to miss work, because I didn't have the funds at the time, because, I didn't want like my insurance and stuff, and I have to get this paperwork and then get a profile with the Air Force. But these are just the things you have to do. And that's taking care of myself, but that's also for my service, because if I screwed up my thumb, now I'm hurting my service to the Air Force.
Yeah. It's difficult, and I think you hit on a key point there. Is sometimes we're like, well, I'm not going to take a knee because service before self.
Right.
Well, important part I think to remember is about service before self is it takes a healthy you to really be effective for your service. Mm-hmm. You, the airman, you are the weapon system. Your weapon system, who you are and what you're bringing to the table, and that diversity of thought and the ideas that you're bringing, the energy that you're bringing, the pieces that you're bringing people back from adrift, all those things. That's what sets us apart from places like China or Russia or Iran, is we allow that. It's that senior NCO corps, that NCO corps, it's that officer corps. It's that everybody is still them.
Right.
And so to really be a good spot of service for self, you have to be a healthy you mentally and physically, which gives you the capability to make, and the capacity in that scarcity effect, right? It gives you the capacity to make those decisions in high stress, a very contested environment. And so to truly live service before self, it takes our integrity, of saying when we're hurting and when we need help. And it takes the integrity of knowing, hey, our people around us, and that's what we're here for.
Right.
But it also takes that excellence in all we do, right? With all the core values to say, hey, I know that we had a mission to do this weekend, but this person needs a little more attention this weekend.
Yeah.
And so when we get that balance, I think we're all better off. When we get that balance of all of these we realized that resilience in an airman, the airman is the key piece to the puzzle when it comes to executing the mission.
Right.
And I've said it numerous times, without our airmen, we're no different than the Grissom Air Museum that's down the street. There's a bunch of planes sitting on the ramp.
Yeah.
And so I love how all those pieces tie together on resilience. What about resources? What resources would you refer an airman to here at Grissom of maybe that's struggling?
Our office is Chaplain.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So one of the things I like to highlight when you say that is, and I'm going to interrupt you right away because I think that I don't know that you guys advertise this a lot. I advertise it a lot. Is, you know, one of the great things about your office is your job is not to tell anyone.
Right.
And actually your job is in jeopardy if you tell anyone.
Right.
And not in jeopardy, but lost.
Right.
And the Air Force has taken great links. You know, when I first came in, they didn't take those great links. You would go to the chaplain and be like, hey, I feel like I may have a drinking problem. And next thing you know, you're sitting in ADAP, like, how'd I end up here? Like,
right.
It was the chaplain told the people, you know, and so that's not like that anymore. Yeah. So that's that place that you guys have that confidentiality to say, you know, we could talk to you and know that the things that, hey, I'm really struggling right now with this or with whatever it may be. And you guys are sworn to that secrecy.
Yeah, that's what when you asked me earlier about what have I been, my resilience been tested. A lot of it is the empathy. I mean, I want to help people. You know, some folks, you know, everyone's a different kind of person. So I would say that when I hear a problem, I'm thinking of solutions. Right? What's best going to solve this for this person? But sometimes people just want to vent, and that's okay. But I take, you know, and I'm not saying don't burden me with this because it's about you. It's about taking care of you. If that makes you feel better, I'm here for you for that. Everyone in our office is. But it is something to struggle with, and I do like that about our career field, and it makes it tough that I can't tell anyone, and I won't. I'll do my best to brainstorm things, especially trying to get
out suggestions,
trying to get it.
Have you thought of the
or getting advice, and I have to go outside of the base to, hey, I got someone that's maybe struggling with this kind of vague scenario, very vague scenario, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm gonna go with this, and I go, thank you, and that's it. No one asks me for any other details. I just give the very minimum vague points, but yeah, we're so our office. You can come to us, share with us, what have you, and we'll help you out as best we can. We're not the only resource.
Yeah, what else you got?
We also have Airman Family Readiness is here. They're a hub for resources. They know all about the military one source folks. What is it? EAP is that the ones for our civilian folks here, and just any program that Indiana offers that helps military members.
Yeah, they're currently working really hard on the childcare issue.
Yes,
trying to figure that out. And
that's been one topic that's been talked to me about is the childcare stuff. Yeah, and I've let them know, hey, just so you know, I got another one telling me, about it. So it is, and it's gonna be a real great day once we have that working for folks. And then we have our VPI, which is Chrissy Shives, that can help out.
Violence prevention.
Yes. Yeah. She's got is it integrator? She's going to kill me. Yeah. I think it's integrator. But she's got so much knowledge. You know, she was former enlisted herself, a former first sergeant. Yeah. That. And I've learned a lot from her. And she's given me a lot of resources and things that I could possibly do in the future. And as well as we have Amy Little, who's our SARC, and let's see, Major Joel Shepard, and then even our who's there in the SARC office as well. And we have our EO office there that can help you guys with Captain Bavaro and team. I'll say that, and then our IG and Colonel Shafero, which does not look like how it's spelled. or it does not sound like how it's spelled. But he's in our IG office. I mean, we got not to mention your first sergeants, like, all your
our
folks.
operational psychologist, right?
Yeah.
Is Aaron Michael Joe.
Sorry, I was walking through my building. Sorry,
and
Aaron.
so and it's
in my mind, I was walking through my building.
Yeah, and then one of the ones that is probably closest to every airman is you have your first sergeant,
right?
The first line of defense, the people that we put out there and we say, hey, we want you to make sure your airmen are being resilient,
right?
What a great resource right there in-house, everything. And so,
I work with a lot of the first sergeants around here, talking to them and getting a feel for what's going on in their squadrons, or even just making sure they're okay, because their job is also to take care of folks, right?
So I think over the next year or so, you're going to see more on these topics of resilience and stuff like that. And we're going to try to break it down a little more. And we're going to have some programs and stuff out there. We're looking at people sharing their own stories. There's a lot of crazy resilient stories on this base, from medical stuff to I talked to someone the other day, attempted suicides, of depression, and all these pieces. And so we're really going to try to start sharing those things to where people can relate to those stories, and we'll hear more of them. And I think together we build some resilience in just from hearing each other's stories.
Oh yeah. I like a lot of the mentality that, like, our ops guys have when it comes to taking care of your wingman and the folks around you. Before they go on mission, if anyone seems off, they have no problem saying,
hey, you're not hopping on.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's great. No wonder, usually when I'm talking about resilience, you guys seem to be like,
we're good.
Like, we do that.
We do this every day.
We take care of it.
That's great.
Like, do you really?
So we're trying to get better, all of us get better at this. And so, man, I really appreciate you taking out your time out of your day of talking to people and a lot of stuff that you have to do to come out here and share with us and sharing a little bit about you. And I want to share one more story, and just because I think it's appropriate for this time.
Sure.
And then we'll wrap this up. And while I'm sharing this story, I want you to think about the section of what am I loving, right? And so we do that at the end of this, is that you're going to get to tell us, hey, what's one thing? It can be a video game, it could be whatever, of what you're loving right now. It could be the weather, it could be whatever, right?
Okay.
And so, but I want to share this one story. So I'm going to share my resilience story, one of the resilience stories that I have, and just to kind of paint a picture for you. I just planned on Chief back in 2016. Just had this great party out at our house in Vegas, and lots of friends and family had came in and everything else. And I was running a squadron that we were operating at a real high ops tempo. And we were chasing down some of the most evildoers out there in the RPA community, as most people know it as the drone community. And a lot of strikes. We were dealing with a lot of different issues and everything else, but it was a high stress but high value job. So I get a phone call from my wife, and I'm sitting in my office, and she tells me that she just talked to the counselor that my daughter was talking to, and my daughter's 13 at the time, and the counselor informed my wife that she hotlined my daughter. So she called the state and said, this girl's not safe to be in the home. So I'm sitting in my office, and I get this information. So I start to break down, and because I'm like, what's this mean? And my wife being, a former, she was in the childcare industry, or and did that, and she was a foster care worker and all those things. Is she said, they're going to take her from our home. And so here I am, a newly pen chief, leading a squadron. I didn't have a first sergeant. Wasn't authorized one. And I'm sitting in my office, and I start to cry, and I start breaking down. Somebody walks by, and they just close my door, which I appreciated, as I'm an emotional dude, and so I appreciated that. And I break down, and I get off the phone with her, and I'm like, I'm a failure. I failed as a parent here. I got all these people that are looking up to me. I'm trying to help all these people, and my family's falling apart. Cops are going to come to my house and take my daughter from me. And my daughter, like, what's she going through? Like, how can I not fix this? And so all these things are running through my head. And I'm like, my family is falling apart. And I'm like, I need to get myself together. And I know my door is the farthest from the door to get out of the building, of course, right? I thought about going out the window. That wasn't an option. Air Force makes it where the windows don't really open anymore. So get yourself together. You gotta suck it up, right? You gotta walk out of here. Don't let them see you hurt. So I pull myself together and I open the door. And there's a senior airman standing there. He said, "Hey, Chief, you got a second?" We know what that means, right?
Right.
That guy's got something going on in his life. I got all this weighing down on me right now in my own life. I said, "Sure, man. I got a second." So he comes in, he sits on my couch. I sit across from him. He said, "Listen, I'm struggling really bad with life. Things are horrible. And I don't know if I can keep going." I wanted to say, I know the feeling. I said, "Hey, talk to me. What's so bad in your life right now?" He said, "Well, I play this game called World of Warcraft." And he said, I played this game for the last 10 years. And this guy's like 23, 22. And I said, "Okay." And he said, "I play with the same people all the time. There's like 8 of us. Some of them he'd never met before.
Been there.
In person, right?" And so he says, "I play with the same people all the time." Well, my cousin's one of them. My cousin and I, when we're tight, we're like brothers. And he got a girlfriend. And he asked if she could play with us. So she started playing. And she doesn't play the same way we play. And so I had enough the other day. And I was like, "Listen, we're not changing how we're doing things just because this girl steps in here." And everybody got mad at me. And they want me to play with a different group. He's like, "This is my life. This is it." And I'm sitting across from him, and he has no idea what's going on in my life. But in his world, it didn't care. Because his life was turned upside down. And I said, "How bad is it?" He said, "Chief, that's my whole life. That's all I do." I mean, he was getting paid for people to watch him game. I'm not a gamer, right?
Yeah.
He had some Switch or Snitch or Twitch, there we go, account, right? And so he's getting paid for people to watch him, and he's like, "These people are ruining my life." So I said, "Hey man, this is a big deal. But I don't know that I have the skill set to help you through this problem. Or even the capacity right now." I said, "Can you hold on one second?" So I walk out, I grab this senior master sergeant, bring him in. I said, "Hey man, you know about this game World of Warcraft?" He's like, "I've been playing this for like 15 years. He's getting kicked out of his group. Like there's a situation," and this guy's like, "What? Hey man, are you all right?" And he starts having this sympathy and empathy for this situation. And I know the me that's it, I'm like, I'm trying to deal with my daughter's about to go into a mental health facility. Like she's going to be taken from my home at 13 years old. She's going to be taken from my home and go into this. He's talking about a video game. A video game. So I said, "Hey, you guys got this?" And senior master sergeant said, "Yeah, I got this, man." I said, "Okay, you use my office. I gotta get home." And I get in my car and I start driving home. And what I realize is that no matter how big or small you think your problem is, that stress is relevant.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if it's a video game,
right,
or if it's your life is about to be turned upside down. Mm-hmm. If it's stress on your life,
yeah,
it's a problem. And it's relevant.
Yeah.
And so I think for sometimes when we talk about this and we go to build resilience, we throw out these big issues because they're big issues to us. And we got to look around and say, there are things that we're like, it's like, man, I really like gel pens instead of the regular pens. You can be like, hey, suck that up. Right. Well, we don't have gel pens.
It's a pen.
Yeah. But when it comes to someone saying, something that has to deal with their life and their emotions, and we have to be empathetic and sympathetic because their resilience may be tempted and they're tried right at that moment.
Right.
And I think back to people I've known that have suffered from severe depression. They're way more, their resilience is tested when they wake up to get out of bed.
Right.
And the fact that they're standing in front of you, man, they've had to have a ton of resilience, probably way more than you had to have to get right in front of you.
Absolutely.
And we never know those things unless we take the time to get to know people. And we get to know their story.
And that's why we can identify that maybe even something like a pen is such a big deal to someone once we examine why is this a big deal? Like, is there something I don't know? And you never know what it ties into.
Yeah. Great points, man. I've loved having this conversation with you. I always enjoy talking with you. I appreciate you being here. Josh, always appreciate you setting this up and helping come up with the ideas for this and your input on it. So, had a little moment to think about it. What are you loving?
Right now, I'm digging a game called Dice Throne. Dice Thrones? Dice of Thrones? Dice Throne, I think.
Yeah, so good you can't even remember the name.
Yeah, so great. So great. No, it's Dice Throne.
Okay.
I remember it because it took a while for me to realize. So this game is about you're rolling dice, and it's called Dice Throne, Throne, but it's a play on dice being thrown, th.
There you go.
However you spell throne.
All right, that's some gaming humor for all of you gamers out there.
It's a good one.
For the rest of us, not that I'm taking your word for it.
I get it. Yeah, it's fun.
I'll take your word for it. So for me right now, what I'm loving is, man, I got a lot of stuff. I got a new pair of boots, and that's like walking on clouds. You get a new pair of boots and you wear them every day. Well, that's great. I got Under Armour. I got some new Armour. I went TDY and I was like, I got to buy some boots while I'm here. So I got some, but I would say I love the weather right now. I got a new Bronco, but the most thing is, I think for me, my resilience has kind of been tested with this whole move and everything that's going on, and trying to figure out how I best fit into the Grissom and how I best serve Grissom. And so I've had to change a lot of things about me to get in here to get to where I feel like we can all start moving forward. And the thing that I'm loving most is my wife. Man, my wife has been a phenomenal support. She's made jokes when I need to not take myself so seriously. She's made cookies when I need to eat my emotions a little bit and be like, all right, I feel better here, just because of having this cookie. And it's always hard for me to complain when you have nice, warm cookie sitting in front of you or something. But just all together, we still deal with some of the struggles with my daughter, and just we got a son that's a junior and a son that just the move and finding friends, all that stuff. Man, she's just been phenomenal.
Awesome.
And so I'm loving those relationships. What's that?
It's a different answer from Dice Throne.
Yeah, but again, it's the same thing. I also have boots and a truck. So, but thank you for that. Yeah. So, and thanks for coming in here.
No, thank you for having me. It's this is pretty awesome. I hope we'll find help you find another person to interview or something. Yeah. There's some pretty cool peeps out there.
Yeah. So in closing, let's talk about what we got going on here at Grissom and what's coming up. First and foremost, you may have seen the social media post or may have seen an email that came out that said, hey, we're one of the final bases for the running to bring in the KC-46. So on the horizon is the KC-46. There's going to be some site surveys, some people coming out, checking that out. What that means is it means that there may be some change coming. And so let's start having those discussions of what's this mean to you? What's this mean to your shop? All of those pieces. Let's educate ourselves on the KC-46, what it brings, and and let's continue doing the mission we have right now, but let's start educating ourselves in case we have a shift coming up. We've always got the top 3 in the Rising 6 meetings. Those people are going to be reaching out. Top 3 is going to be doing elections this UTA, as well as I believe Rising 6 is. So those are great. There's new fitness standards that are out there. Those fitness standards are on the public affairs website. They're also on my SharePoint. I posted those under important docs stuff. It's the new scoring is going to be 60 points for the cardio, 20 points for sit-ups, and 20 points for our push-ups. No more waist measurement in the fitness.
That's where I made all my 20.
That's where I could max out. But so those are out there. Family Day, obviously October. Man, get your families up for it. Get planned. Be out here. We've been in these meetings. Things are going great. And as always, we want to hear from you. You can email me or Josh Weaver directly. You can also go to my SharePoint page. There's a place to add comments and ask any kind of questions. Or just as we're out and about, ask someone that you know talks to me and to get a subject or a topic on here or a question that you want answered. Man, we really appreciate what you guys are doing out there. There's no place that does the KC-135 mission better than Grissom, and it's because of you. And you are our best weapon system, and we need you to stay healthy. So have a conversation about what it means to be resilient, and what it means to be resilient for your airmen. It probably means something different. So get that perspective, and thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.